Min-Jun Park stood outside the Los Angeles Community Theater and took a deep breath. His hands were shaking. He had been standing there for 10 minutes trying to find the courage to walk inside. The afternoon sun was warm on his face, but he felt cold inside. He was 19 years old, and this was the biggest chance of his life. Inside that building, they were holding auditions for a charity showcase. The event would raise money for children with disabilities. Min-Jun wanted to perform. He needed to perform, but he was terrified. Min-Jun pulled out his phone and looked at the message from his mother one more time. "You can do this, my son. Be brave. We love you." He smiled a little and put the phone back in his pocket. Then he walked toward the theater doors. Inside, the lobby was full of people. Young actors practiced their lines in corners. Singers hummed and did vocal exercises. Dancers stretched their legs. Everyone looked confident and professional. Min-Jun felt small and out of place. He walked to the registration table where a woman with red hair sat with a clipboard. She looked up and smiled at him. "Hi there. Are you here to audition?" she asked. Min-Jun nodded. He pointed to his ears and then made a gesture. The woman looked confused for a moment. Then Min-Jun pulled out his phone and typed quickly. He showed her the screen. "I am deaf. I have an interpreter coming. Can I still audition?" The woman's eyes went wide. "Oh, yes, of course. What's your name?" Min-Jun typed again and showed her. "Min-Jun Park." She found his name on the list and checked it off. "Great. Your interpreter can meet you here. You'll be called when it's your turn." "Good luck!" Min-Jun sat down in one of the plastic chairs along the wall. Around him, people chatted and laughed. He could not hear any of it. He had lost his hearing when he was 7 years old. A terrible sickness called meningitis had taken his hearing away. That was 12 years ago. After he lost his hearing, his parents found him the best teachers and doctors. He learned sign language quickly. He learned to read lips. And he worked with speech therapists who helped him learn to speak, even though he could not hear his own voice. Speaking was the hardest thing. When you cannot hear sounds, it is very difficult to make the right sounds with your mouth. Min-Jun practiced every day for years. His voice was not clear like other people's voices. The words came out strange and unclear. But he kept trying. His interpreter, Ms. Chen, arrived 15 minutes later. She was a kind woman in her 50s who had worked with Min-Jun for 3 years. She sat next to him and signed. "Are you ready?" Her hands asked. Min-Jun signed back. "I am very nervous. You have practiced so much." "You will do great," she signed with an encouraging smile. They waited for almost an hour. Min-Jun watched other people audition. A girl with a beautiful voice sang a song from a musical. A young man did a funny comedy routine that made everyone laugh. A woman performed a dramatic scene that brought tears to people's eyes. Finally, someone called his name. Min-Jun Park. Min-Jun stood up. His legs felt weak. Ms. Chen walked with him toward the stage area. As they walked past the other performers waiting in the hall, he noticed some of them staring at him. 2 young men whispered to each other and looked at him. Min-Jun pretended not to notice. The stage was small but bright. 3 people sat at a table in front of the stage. They were the judges. A man in the middle smiled and waved him forward. Ms. Chen stood to the side where Min-Jun could see her. She would interpret what the judges said. The man in the middle spoke, and Ms. Chen signed for Min-Jun. "Hello, welcome. What will you be performing for us today?" Min-Jun had practiced this moment 100 times. He opened his mouth and spoke. "I will perform a monologue. It is about courage." His voice came out rough and unclear. The words ran together in strange ways. He could not hear himself, but he knew from years of practice that his speech was not like other people's. The 3 judges looked at each other. One woman smiled kindly. Another man looked uncomfortable. "That's great," the middle judge said, and Ms. Chen signed. "Whenever you're ready." Min-Jun nodded. He took a deep breath and began. He had memorized every word of this monologue. It was about a young boy who loses something important but finds inner strength. Min-Jun had chosen it because it felt like his own story. As he spoke, his voice cracked and wavered. The words were hard to understand. He tried his best to pronounce each one correctly, but without being able to hear himself, it was like walking in the dark. From the hallway outside, he could hear nothing. But Ms. Chen could. Her face changed. She looked sad and then angry. She glanced toward the hallway. Min-Jun kept going. He focused on the judges. The kind woman was watching him closely. The uncomfortable man was looking down at his papers. The middle judge had a neutral expression. Then Min-jun saw something that made his heart sink. Through the open door to the hallway, he could see some of the other performers. The two young men who had whispered earlier were now laughing. One of them made exaggerated hand movements, mocking sign language. The other one made strange faces and moved his mouth in a cruel imitation. A few other people in the hallway were trying not to laugh. Some looked away, embarrassed. But the two young men did not care. They kept laughing and mocking. Min-jun felt his face grow hot. His eyes started to burn with tears. But he was in the middle of his monologue. He could not stop now. He pushed forward, speaking each line even though his voice shook. The monologue talked about not giving up. It talked about finding your strength when the world tells you that you are not enough. As Min-jun spoke these words in his imperfect voice, they felt more real than ever. He reached the final line. And in that moment, I knew that I was stronger than I ever believed. He finished and stood there, breathing hard. The judges clapped politely. The kind woman was smiling, but it was a sad smile. The uncomfortable man looked relieved that it was over. "Thank you, Min-jun," the middle judge said. Ms. Chen signed it. "That was very brave. We'll let you know our decision soon." Min-jun signed "thank you" and walked off the stage. As he passed through the hallway, it went quiet. The two young men who had been laughing turned away. Other performers suddenly found their phones very interesting. Min-jun kept walking. Ms. Chen followed him, looking furious. Her hands moved quickly. "Those people were so rude. Do you want me to say something?" Min-jun signed back. "No, it does not matter." But it did matter. It mattered so much that Min-jun felt like his chest was being crushed. He walked out of the theater and into the late afternoon sun. He found a bench near the parking lot and sat down. Ms. Chen sat next to him. She did not sign anything. She just sat there, a kind presence beside him. Min-jun put his face in his hands. Had he been stupid to think he could do this? His mother always told him he could do anything. His little sister Ji-woo always said he was her hero. But maybe they were just being nice. Maybe the truth was that someone like him with a voice like his had no place on a stage. He thought about all the hours of practice, all the speech therapy sessions, all the times he had stood in front of his bedroom mirror, trying to make his mouth form words he could not hear. Had it all been for nothing? A tear ran down his cheek. Then another. Min-jun did not try to stop them. He had been brave inside the theater. Out here alone he could let himself feel the hurt. Ms. Chen put a gentle hand on his shoulder. Min-jun looked up at her. She signed slowly and clearly. "You were amazing in there. Do not let cruel people take that away from you." Min-jun wanted to believe her. But right now, sitting on this bench outside a theater where people had laughed at him, belief felt very far away. What Min-jun did not know was that someone else had been in that theater. Someone who had seen everything. Someone who was about to change his life forever. 20 minutes earlier, a tall man in a baseball cap and sunglasses had entered the theater through the back door. He wore simple jeans and a plain black t-shirt. No one noticed him slip into the last row of seats. That was exactly what he wanted. Vin Diesel was supposed to be in a meeting right now. His assistant, Soo-jin Kim, had scheduled a lunch meeting with a producer. But Soo-jin had also mentioned this audition happening nearby. She thought he might want to see it. "It's for a disability charity showcase," she had told him that morning. "They're looking for authentic voices. Real people with real stories." Vin had been working on a project about disability advocacy for months. He wanted to do something meaningful, not just another action movie. When Soo-jin suggested stopping by the audition, he agreed immediately. So here he was, sitting in the back of a small community theater, watching young performers try their best. Soo-jin sat next to him, taking notes on her phone. They had seen several auditions already. A talented singer, a decent comedian, a dramatic actress who was quite good. All of them were polished and professional. Then Min-jun Park walked onto the stage. Vin noticed him right away. The young man looked nervous. There was an interpreter with him. When Min-jun opened his mouth to speak, Vin understood immediately. This young man was deaf. Min-jun's voice was different. The words came out unclear and rough. But Vin leaned forward in his seat, listening carefully. He could understand what Min-jun was saying if he paid attention. The monologue was about courage. About a boy who loses something but finds strength. Vin felt something tighten in his chest. This was real. This was not some actor pretending. This was a young man bearing his soul on stage despite everything working against him. Then Vin heard it. Laughter from the hallway. He turned his head and looked toward the open door. Two young men were standing there laughing and mocking. One of them made stupid gestures with his hands. The other made faces, imitating Min Jun's speech. Vin felt anger rise in his chest. Hot, immediate anger. He started to stand up, ready to walk over there and say something. Sujin put a hand on his arm and shook her head. She was right. If he caused a scene now, it would embarrass Min Jun even more. So Vin sat back down and watched. He watched Min Jun see the mockers. He watched the young man's face change, saw the hurt in his eyes, but Min Jun did not stop. He kept going. He finished his entire monologue even though his voice was shaking and tears were starting to form. That was real courage. That was the kind of strength you could not fake. When Min Jun finished, Vin watched him walk off stage with his interpreter. The young man walked past the other performers with his head down. Then he left the building. Vin stood up. "Come on," he said to Sujin, "where are we going?" "I need to talk to whoever is running this thing." They walked down to the front of the theater. The three judges were discussing something at their table. The casting director, a thin man with glasses named Robert Chen, stood nearby with his clipboard. Vin took off his sunglasses as he approached. Robert looked up and his mouth fell open. "Oh my God, you're Vin Diesel." "Yes, hi, can we talk for a minute?" Robert nodded, still looking shocked. "Of course. I mean, yes, absolutely." "What are you doing here?" "I was watching the auditions." "Who was that young man who just performed?" "The deaf student?" Robert glanced at his clipboard. "Oh, Min Jun Park, he was very brave to try. But obviously he is not suitable for a performance role. His speech is just too difficult to understand." Vin felt his jaw tighten. "I understood him just fine." "Well, yes, but the audience saw more courage in those 3 minutes than any other performer showed today," Vin said. His voice was calm but firm. That young man performed while people laughed at him. He finished even though he was crying. That is what real performance looks like. Robert did not know what to say. He looked at Sujin as if she might help him. She just smiled and shrugged. "Have you finalized the lineup for the showcase?" Vin asked. "Not yet. We are still deciding. We will call the selected performers tomorrow." "Good. I want to make you an offer." Robert's eyes went wide. "An offer?" "I will perform at your charity showcase. I will not charge anything. All I ask is that you donate my appearance fee, which would normally be quite high, directly to the charity." Robert looked like he might faint. You want to perform at our showcase here?" "Yes, but I have 2 conditions." "Anything. Name it." "First, Min Jun Park must be in the showcase. He performs his monologue on stage in front of the real audience." Robert hesitated. "I don't know if—" "That's my condition," Vin said. His tone left no room for argument. "Okay, yes, of course. Min Jun will be in the showcase. What is the second condition?" "You do not tell him or anyone else that I requested his inclusion. As far as Min Jun knows, he earned this spot himself." "Because he did." Robert nodded quickly. "I understand. I promise." "And one more thing," Vin added. Those 2 young men in the hallway who were laughing and mocking, the ones who made fun of sign language and imitated Min Jun's voice, I want them cut from the showcase. "Oh, I don't know who you mean," Sujin spoke up. "I got their names. Chad Morris and Brett Sullivan? They were the comedians who auditioned earlier." Robert looked uncomfortable. They were actually quite good. Their comedy routine was, "I do not care how good they are," Vin said. "This is a charity event for children with disabilities. You do not want performers who mock people with disabilities. Trust me on this." Robert understood. "You're right. They are out." "Good, so we have a deal?" "Yes, absolutely." "This is incredible. Vin Diesel at our showcase. The media will go crazy." "We will sell out in hours. Make sure the money goes where it needs to go," Vin said. "That is what matters." Of course, of course. "Thank you so much, Mr. Diesel. This is amazing." Vin put his sunglasses back on. He walked back up the aisle with Sujin following him. At the door, he paused and looked back at the empty stage. "That kid has something special," he said quietly. "I know," Sujin replied. "That is why I thought you should see this." They stepped outside into the late afternoon sun. Vin looked around the parking lot and saw Min Jun sitting on a bench. The interpreter sat beside him. Even from a distance, Vin could see that Min Jun was crying. That breaks my heart, Sujin said softly. Vin remembered his cousin, Marco. Marco had a speech impediment when they were kids. Other children made fun of him all the time. They called him names. They imitated the way he talked. Marco stopped talking at school for almost 2 years. He would only speak at home. It took a long time for Marco to find his confidence again. He had to work with therapists. He had to practice every day. But eventually Marco learned to not let the bullies win. Now Marco was a teacher. He helped other kids who struggled with speech. Watching Minjun on that bench reminded Vin of young Marco. That same hurt. That same doubt. That same question of whether trying was even worth it. We should go, Sujin said. Your next meeting is in 30 minutes. Vin nodded but did not move. He stood there for a moment longer, watching Minjun from across the parking lot. Do you think he will actually show up to the showcase? Sujin asked. He looks pretty defeated right now. He will show up, Vin said. People like him do not give up easy. They have had to fight for everything their whole lives. One bad audition will not stop him. I hope you are right. I am right. You will see. They walked to Vin's car. As they drove away, Vin looked in the rear-view mirror one last time. Minjun was still sitting on that bench. Make sure Robert calls him first thing tomorrow, Vin said. I do not want that kid spending too much time thinking he failed. I will text Robert right now, Sujin promised. And Sujin? Yes? Thank you for bringing me here today. This mattered, she smiled. I knew you would want to see it. Real courage is rare. When you find it, you should pay attention. You are very wise. That is why you pay me, she said with a grin. Vin laughed. They drove through Los Angeles traffic toward the next meeting. But Vin's mind stayed at that theater. He kept thinking about Minjun's performance. The shaking voice, the tears in his eyes, the determination to finish even when people laughed. That was the kind of strength that movies tried to capture but rarely did. That was the kind of hero that people needed to see. Vin had been in dozens of action movies. He had played tough characters who fought villains and saved the world. But he knew the truth. Real heroes looked like Minjun Park. They showed up even when they were terrified. They kept going even when people mocked them. They finished even when they were crying. That night, Vin could not stop thinking about the audition. He sat in his home office and did something he rarely did. He wrote a long note in his phone about what he wanted to do at the showcase. He had an idea. A way to make this about more than just his celebrity appearance. A way to shine a light on Minjun and others like him. A way to show everyone watching what real courage looked like. By the time he finished writing, it was past midnight. But Vin felt good. He felt like he was doing something that mattered. The next morning, Robert would call Minjun and give him the good news. Minjun would be confused and maybe suspicious, but he would say yes. Vin was sure of it, and when the night of the showcase came, Vin would make sure everyone in that theater understood what they had witnessed that day at the audition. Not a failed attempt. 3 days passed slowly for Minjun. He tried not to think about the audition, but it was impossible. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those 2 young men laughing at him. Every time he looked in the mirror, he wondered why he had thought he could perform. His mother, Hee-won, noticed his sadness. She said nothing at first. She just made his favorite foods and gave him extra hugs. His younger sister, Ji-woo, tried to cheer him up with funny videos on her phone. His father, Sung-ho, took him to their favorite restaurant. But Minjun felt hollow inside. On the 3rd day, his phone buzzed on the kitchen table. It was a call from an unknown number. Minjun almost did not answer. He got many spam calls, but something made him pick up the phone. He could not hear the person talking, of course. But he had a special app that turned speech into text on his screen. Words started appearing. Hello, is this Minjun Park? Minjun typed his response. Yes, this is Minjun. This is Robert Chen from the Los Angeles Community Theater. I'm calling about the charity showcase audition. Minjun's heart started beating fast. Here it came. The polite rejection. The thank you for trying message. We would like to invite you to perform in the showcase. You have been selected. Minjun stared at the words on his screen. He read them again. Then a 3rd time. This had to be a mistake, he typed quickly. Are you sure? I thought my audition was not good. Your audition showed exactly what we are looking for. Courage and heart. We would be honored to have you perform your monologue at the showcase. Minjun sat down. His hands were shaking. Why? I know people were laughing at me. There was a pause. Then more words appeared. The people who matter were not laughing. They were inspired. Will you accept? Minjun thought about saying no. Part of him wanted to protect himself from more hurt. But another part of him, the part that had practiced speech therapy for 12 years, the part that had memorized that monologue and meant every word, that part said yes. He typed his response. Yes, I will do it. Thank you. Wonderful. Rehearsals start in 2 days. I will email you all the details. This is going to be special, Minjun. I promise. After the call ended, Minjun sat at the kitchen table for a long time. He did not know what to feel. Happy, suspicious, scared, all of those things at once. His mother came into the kitchen and saw his face. She signed, "What happened?" Minjun signed back, "They want me in the showcase." Hee-won's eyes filled with tears. She pulled him into a tight hug. Then she started signing rapidly. "I knew it! I knew they would see how special you are. We have to tell your father and Ji-woo." That night his family celebrated. Ji-woo made a banner that said Superstar Minjun and hung it in the living room. His father ordered pizza. They all sat together and Minjun told them everything through sign language. "I do not understand why they picked me," he signed. "My audition was terrible." "Your audition was brave," his mother signed back. "That matters more than perfect. But what if I mess up at the real show? What if more people laugh?" Ji-woo signed with fierce movements. "Then they are idiots. You are amazing and everyone will see it." Minjun smiled at his little sister. She always believed in him, even when he did not believe in himself. 2 days later, Minjun walked into the theater for the first rehearsal. His stomach was full of butterflies. What if the other performers were mean to him? What if the 2 mockers were there? Inside, about 15 people stood around talking. Minjun recognized some faces from the audition. His heart sank when he saw Chad and Brett, the 2 who had laughed at him. They stood in a corner talking to each other, but then Robert walked over to Chad and Brett. Minjun could not hear what was being said, but he saw their faces change. They looked angry. Brett said something and gestured. Robert shook his head firmly and pointed toward the door. Chad and Brett grabbed their bags and left. They walked past Minjun without looking at him. Robert came over to Minjun and smiled. He spoke slowly so Minjun could read his lips. "Welcome. We are glad you are here." A woman with kind eyes approached them. She had dark hair and warm brown skin. Robert introduced her. "This is Emma Rodriguez. She is one of our performers." Emma smiled at Minjun. Then she did something unexpected. She lifted her hands and signed, "Hello. Nice to meet you." Her signing was slow and clumsy, but she was trying. Minjun signed back, "Thank you. Your signing is good." Emma laughed and spoke while she signed, "It is terrible. But my nephew is deaf. I have been meaning to learn. Maybe you can teach me some?" Minjun felt something warm in his chest. Someone was being genuinely kind. He nodded and signed, "I would love to." The rehearsal began. Robert explained the structure of the showcase. Each performer would do their individual piece. Then at the end, there would be a group finale that everyone would participate in. "We also have some exciting news," Robert said. "A special guest will be joining us for the finale. A celebrity supporter of the charity." The room buzzed with excitement. Everyone started guessing who it might be. "Is it Chris Hemsworth?" someone asked. "Maybe Zendaya," another person suggested. Robert smiled but said nothing. "You will find out soon. For now, let us start rehearsing." One by one, performers ran through their pieces. A young man did a comedy routine about his experience with dyslexia. A woman sang a beautiful song. A teenager performed a dance, then it was Minjun's turn. He walked onto the stage, his heart pounding. The stage lights were bright and hot. He could see all the other performers watching from the seats. He started his monologue. His voice came out shaky at first. But as he continued, he found his rhythm. He remembered why he loved these words. He remembered what they meant to him. When he finished, the room was quiet for a moment. Then everyone started clapping. Minjun could not hear it, but he could see it. And more importantly, he could see their faces. They were not mocking him. They were moved. Emma gave him a thumbs up. Another performer, a man named David, patted him on the back as he left the stage. Even people he did not know smiled at him. During the break, Minjun sat alone and drank some water. He was exhausted but happy. Emma came and sat next to him. She signed slowly. "You were amazing." Minjun signed back. Thank you. You are very kind. Can I ask you something? Emma asked, signing and speaking at the same time. Have you always been deaf? Minjun shook his head. He pulled out his phone and typed. I lost my hearing when I was 7. I got very sick. That must have been hard. It was. But my family helped me. And I had good teachers. Emma smiled. Your speaking is very good. I could understand you. Really? Most people say they cannot understand me. Most people do not try hard enough, Emma said. They hear something different and they stop listening. But if you actually pay attention, your words are clear. Minjun felt tears forming in his eyes. He had spent so many years feeling like his voice did not matter because it sounded different. Hearing Emma say this meant more than she could know. The rehearsal continued. Robert called everyone back to discuss the finale. Our special guest will join us for the final performance. It will be a group piece about finding your voice and overcoming obstacles. Each of you will have one line to say. He handed out papers with the script. Minjun looked at his line. I learned that my voice matters even when it sounds different. It was perfect. It was like someone had written it just for him. Who is the special guest? Someone asked again. Robert smiled mysteriously. You will meet them at the next rehearsal. Trust me, you will be excited. Over the next few days, Minjun attended 3 more rehearsals. Each time he felt more comfortable. The other performers were kind to him. They made an effort to face him when they talked so he could read their lips. Some of them asked Emma to teach them basic signs. Jiwoo came to one rehearsal and sat in the audience with their mother. Afterward, Jiwoo signed excitedly. You were so good. Everyone loves you. I cannot believe this is happening, Minjun signed back. Believe it, his mother signed. You earned this. At the 4th rehearsal, the energy in the theater was different. Everyone seemed excited about something. People were whispering and looking around. Robert walked to the center of the stage. Everyone, please gather around. Our special guest has arrived for rehearsal. I want you all to meet someone very special. The side door of the theater opened. A tall man walked in. He wore jeans and a simple shirt. He had a warm smile on his face. The room exploded with excitement. People were pointing and talking rapidly. Minjun looked at Emma in confusion. She pointed at the man and spelled out the letters with her fingers. Vindiesel. Minjun's mouth fell open. Vin Diesel? The action movie star. He was here. Vin walked around the room, shaking everyone's hand and introducing himself. He was friendly and humble. When he got to Minjun, something amazing happened. Vin lifted his hands and slowly fingerspelled VIN. He was using sign language. It was slow and not perfect, but he was trying. Minjun fingerspelled his name back, Minjun. Vin smiled and gave him a fist bump. Then Vin turned to the whole group and started talking. Emma stood next to Minjun and signed what Vin was saying. Thank you all for letting me be part of this showcase. This cause is very important to me. Disability advocacy, inclusion, giving everyone a chance to be heard. These things matter. Vin talked about his own experiences feeling different. He talked about being bullied as a kid for being multiracial. 2 days before the showcase, the theater buzzed with nervous energy. It was the dress rehearsal, the last practice before the real performance. Minjun arrived early with his mother and Jiwoo. They wanted to see him rehearse one final time. Are you nervous? Haewon signed to her son. Very nervous, Minjun signed back. But good nervous. Does that make sense? She smiled and touched his face gently. Perfect sense. Inside the theater, performers were everywhere. Some practiced their lines in corners. Others stretched or did vocal warm-ups. The costume designer was adjusting someone's outfit. The lighting technician was testing different colors on the stage. Minjun found Emma near the stage. She was practicing her song quietly. When she saw him, she waved and signed hello. Big day, she signed with a smile. Very big, Minjun signed back. Robert gathered everyone together. Okay, people. This is our dress rehearsal. We run through the entire show from start to finish. No stopping unless something goes very wrong. Treat this like the real performance. He looked at his notes. We have a full house sold out for tomorrow night. Over 500 people. The local news will be there. Some important donors. This is our chance to make a real impact for the charity. Everyone nodded seriously. 500 people. Minjun felt his stomach flip. The rehearsal began. One by one, performers took the stage and ran through their pieces. A young comedian made everyone laugh with jokes about his ADHD. A dancer performed a beautiful piece about her journey with chronic pain. A singer brought tears with a song about her brother who had autism. Then it was Minjun's turn. He walked onto the stage. The lights were bright and hot on his skin. He could see his mother and Jiwoo sitting in the third row. They both gave him thumbs up. He began his monologue. The words came more easily now after all the practice. He focused on the meaning behind each line. The story of a boy who loses something important, but discovers inner strength. It was his story. It was the story of everyone who had ever felt different or broken or less than. When he reached the final line, and in that moment, I knew that I was stronger than I ever believed. His voice was clear and strong. Not perfect, not like everyone else, but his own. The theater was silent for a moment. Then the applause came. Minjun could not hear it, but he saw everyone clapping. His mother was crying happy tears. Jiwoo was jumping up and down. As Minjun walked off stage, several performers patted his back or gave him high fives. Emma hugged him. That was beautiful, she signed. Robert was smiling so wide his face looked like it might break. Incredible, Minjun. Just incredible. David, the man who performed a comedy routine about dyslexia, came over. He spoke slowly so Minjun could read his lips. You are so brave, man. I was nervous about my piece, but watching you gives me courage. Minjun felt warmth spread through his chest. People were not just being polite. They meant it. The rehearsal continued. Each performer did their piece. Then Robert called everyone to the stage. Okay, now we rehearse the finale. Our special guest should be here any minute. As if on cue, the side door opened. Vin Diesel walked in, followed by his assistant Soo-jin. Vin was wearing dark jeans and a gray sweater. He looked relaxed and happy. Sorry, I am late, Vin called out. Traffic was terrible. Everyone gathered around him, excited. But Vin was not here to be a celebrity. He joined the circle of performers like he was just one of them. How is everyone feeling? Vin asked. Ready for tomorrow? Nervous, someone said. Excited. Another person added, terrified. David joked and everyone laughed. Vin smiled. Good, all of those feelings are good. It means you care. It means this matters. He paused and looked around the circle. I want to talk to you all about something before we rehearse the finale. Everyone got quiet and listened. This showcase is about courage, Vin said. Emma stood next to Minjun and signed everything. It is about people finding their voice, using their voice, refusing to be silenced. Vin started walking slowly around the circle as he talked. I have been in movies where I play tough guys who fight bad guys and save the world. People think that is courage. And maybe it is in a movie kind of way. He stopped walking and looked at all of them. But real courage is what I saw in this room. Real courage is performing when you have dyslexia, and people told you that you were stupid. Real courage is dancing when chronic pain makes every movement hurt. Real courage is singing about a brother with autism when the world tells you to be ashamed. Minjun felt tears starting to form. He knew what was coming. And real courage, Vin said, looking directly at Minjun, is standing on a stage and speaking when you cannot hear your own voice, when people in the hallway are laughing at you, when everything inside you wants to run away. The room was completely silent. Everyone looked at Minjun. I was at that audition, Vin continued. I saw what happened. I saw two young men mock Minjun while he performed. I saw them make fun of his voice and his signing. Some people gasped. Others looked angry. Minjun felt frozen in place. But I also saw Minjun finish his entire monologue, even with tears in his eyes, even with his voice shaking. He finished. And in that moment I saw more courage than I have ever seen on any movie set. Vin walked over to Minjun. That is why I am here. Not as a celebrity doing charity work, but as someone who saw real courage and wanted to honor it. Minjun's tears were falling now. He could not stop them. Vin put a hand on his shoulder. I know what it is like to feel different, Vin said softly. Emma signed every word carefully. I grew up multiracial in a time when that was not easy. Kids made fun of me. Adults did not know what to do with me. I felt like I did not fit anywhere. Vin's eyes were getting misty too. My cousin Marco had a speech impediment. Kids at school mocked him every day. They would imitate how he talked. They would laugh when he tried to read out loud in class. It hurt him so badly that he stopped talking at school completely. For 2 years he only spoke at home. The room was so quiet you could hear breathing. It took Marco a long time to find his voice again. Years of therapy, years of practice, years of building courage. Now he is a teacher who helps kids with speech challenges. But those years of silence hurt him. They stole something from him. Vin looked around at everyone. When I saw those two young men mocking Minjun, I saw the kids who mocked Marco. And I decided right there that I would not let them win. I would not let mockery be stronger than courage. He turned back to Minjun. So I asked the director to include you in the showcase. But I also asked him not to tell you it was my idea, because I wanted you to know something important. Vin spoke slowly and clearly. You earned this spot. Not because a celebrity asked for you, but because you showed real courage. The kind that cannot be faked or acted. The kind that comes from the soul. Minjun was crying openly now. So was his mother in the audience. So was Jiwoo. Several of the other performers were wiping their eyes too. Tomorrow night, Vin said to the whole group, 500 people will watch us perform. Some will come because my name is on the poster. That is fine. But by the end of the night, they will leave talking about all of you. About your courage. About your voices. About your refusal to be silenced. He looked at Minjun one more time, especially you. They will remember you. Minjun signed thank you with shaking hands. Vin signed back slowly but clearly. No, thank you. Emma was crying now too. She signed to Minjun. That was beautiful. David came over and hugged Minjun. Then another performer. Then another. Soon half the cast was hugging him or touching his shoulder in support. Robert let everyone have a moment. Then he cleared his throat. Okay, let us rehearse the finale. We have a show to put on tomorrow. They ran through the finale 3 times. It was a group piece where each performer stepped forward and said one line about overcoming obstacles. The lines built on each other, creating a powerful message. Emma said her line about learning to be vulnerable after divorce. David talked about discovering that different does not mean less. A young woman named Sarah spoke about finding beauty in her scars from a car accident. Then it was Minjun's turn. Vin stood next to him, a silent presence of support. Minjun spoke his line. I learned that my voice matters even when it sounds different. Vin added his line immediately after. And I learned that courage sounds like Minjun. The rest of the cast continued with their lines. The finale ended with everyone signing, "We are stronger together" in sign language. Vin had learned the signs and performed them with everyone else. When the rehearsal finished, Robert gathered everyone one last time. That was perfect. Tomorrow night we are going to change lives. Not just the people we are raising money for, but everyone who watches. We are going to show them what real courage looks like. As people started to leave, Vin pulled Minjun aside. Sujin came over to interpret. Can we talk for a minute? Vin asked. Minjun nodded, nervous. I want you to know something, Vin said. Sujin signed. After tomorrow night, your life is going to change. People are going to want to interview you. Tell your story. Maybe offer you opportunities. Minjun's eyes went wide. When that happens, Vin continued, remember this moment. Remember why you started. Remember that your voice matters not because famous people say so, but because it is yours. Because your story is important. Because other people who feel different or broken or less than need to hear it. The day of the showcase arrived. Minjun woke up early even though the show was not until evening. His stomach felt like it was full of butterflies doing somersaults. He could not eat breakfast. He just drank some water and tried to calm his racing heart. His mother made him his favorite lunch, but he could only eat a few bites. She watched him with worried eyes. You need to eat, she signed. You need energy for tonight. I cannot. My stomach is too nervous, he signed back. Jiwoo bounced into the kitchen wearing a shirt that said Minjun's #1 fan. She had made it herself with iron-on letters. Look what I made. Minjun smiled despite his nerves. You are embarrassing. I am proud, she signed back. Big difference. His father came into the kitchen in his good suit. Sung-ho was a quiet man who did not show emotion easily, but today Minjun could see pride in his father's eyes. You're going to do great, Sung-ho signed. He was not fluent in sign language, but he had learned the important phrases. I am proud of you. Minjun felt tears forming. He hugged his father tight. They arrived at the theater 3 hours before the show. The parking lot was already busy with crew members and volunteers setting up. A van from the local news station was parked near the entrance. Inside the theater was controlled chaos. The lighting crew was doing final adjustments. The sound technician was testing microphones. Volunteers were setting up chairs and programs. Everything smelled like fresh paint and excitement. Robert saw Minjun and rushed over. "There you are. How are you feeling?" Minjun gave a so-so gesture with his hand. Robert smiled. "That is normal. Every performer is nervous. Come on, let me show you the dressing room." Backstage was even more chaotic. Performers were everywhere, in various states of costume and makeup. Some were practicing their lines. Others were doing breathing exercises or stretching. Emma saw Minjun and waved him over. She was wearing a beautiful blue dress for her performance. "You look nice," she signed. "Thank you." "You look beautiful," he signed back. "I am so nervous I might throw up," she signed with a laugh. "Me too." They sat together in the dressing room, taking comfort in shared anxiety. Other performers came and went. David was pacing back and forth, muttering his routine under his breath. Sarah was touching up her makeup. A young man named James was tuning his guitar. An hour before the show, Vin arrived. He came backstage and went to each performer, giving them encouragement. When he got to Minjun, he gave him a fist bump. "You ready?" Vin asked. His assistant Soo Jin was there to interpret. Minjun nodded, though his hands were shaking. "Good," Vin said. "Remember, you have already done the hard part. You showed up. You practiced. You are here. The rest is just telling your story." Vin signed something slowly. Minjun recognized the signs. "Be brave," Minjun signed back. "I will try." "No," Vin corrected gently. "Not try will, you will be brave. I know you will." 30 minutes before the show, Robert gathered all the performers for a final meeting. "Okay, everyone. The house is completely full. We sold all 500 seats. There is even a waiting list of people who wanted to come." Excited murmurs went through the group. "I want you all to know something," Robert continued. "This showcase is going to raise over $200,000 for disability programs in our community. $200,000. That money will help children get therapy, equipment, education, support. You are all making that happen." The weight of that hit everyone. This was not just about performing. This was about changing lives, so go out there, Robert said, and tell your stories. Be honest, be brave. Be yourselves. That is all you need to do. The performers gathered in a circle and put their hands in the middle. 1, 2, 3, courage, they all said together. Minjun could not hear it, but he said it with them. Then it was time. The house lights dimmed. The audience settled into their seats. In the front row, Hee-won sat between Sung-ho and Ji-woo. They held hands tightly. Robert walked onto the stage as the host. He welcomed everyone and explained the purpose of the showcase. He talked about the charity and what the money would support. Then he introduced the first performer. One by one, the performers took the stage. From backstage, Minjun watched on a small monitor. Each person shared their story, their talent, their courage. The comedian with ADHD made the audience laugh while also making them think. Sarah performed a powerful spoken word piece about her car accident and recovery. James played his guitar and sang a song he wrote about his brother with Down syndrome. Emma walked onto the stage in her blue dress. Minjun could see on the monitor that she looked nervous. But when she started singing, her voice was pure and beautiful. She sang about love and loss and finding hope. By the end, people in the audience were wiping their eyes. When Emma came off stage, she was shaking. Minjun hugged her. "You were amazing," he signed. "I almost forgot the words in the second verse," she signed back. "I could not tell." "That is good," she signed with a relieved smile. More performers went on. Each one brought something special. Each one shared a piece of their soul. Then Robert's voice came through the backstage speaker. "And now please welcome Minjun Park." This was it. Minjun's heart was pounding so hard he thought it might burst out of his chest. His hands were sweating. His legs felt weak. Emma squeezed his hand. "You got this," she signed. David gave him a pat on the back. "Go show them." Vin appeared next to him. He did not sign anything. He just looked Minjun in the eyes and nodded. A simple gesture that said everything. Minjun walked toward the stage. The short walk felt like a mile. He could see the bright lights ahead. Beyond those lights, 500 people waited. He stepped onto the stage. The lights were blinding at first, but as his eyes adjusted, he could see the audience. Row after row of faces, all looking at him, waiting. He found his family in the front row. His mother was gripping his father's hand. Ji-woo gave him a big thumbs up. Minjun took a deep breath. He thought about the 7-year-old boy who lost his hearing. He thought about all the years of therapy. He thought about the audition and the laughter. He thought about Vin's words. Real courage is performing when you are scared. He opened his mouth and began his monologue. There was once a boy who lost something precious. One day he woke up and the world was silent. His voice came out rough and unclear just like always. But this time he did not apologize for it. This was his voice. This was how he sounded. The boy cried because he thought silence meant the end. He thought if he could not hear, he could not live fully. Minjun moved around the stage as he spoke, just like he had practiced. He used his hands to emphasize certain words, even though this was not sign language. It was just his way of expressing himself. But slowly the boy learned something. Silence was not empty. Silence was full of other things. Touch, sight, feeling, connection. He could see people in the audience leaning forward, concentrating on his words. Some had their eyes closed, really listening. Others watched his every movement. The boy learned that voice is not just sound. Voice is presence. Voice is showing up. Voice is refusing to disappear. Minjun's voice was getting stronger now. The emotion behind the words gave them power that perfect pronunciation never could. People told the boy his voice did not matter anymore, that he should stay quiet. That different meant less. He paused. The theater was completely silent. Minjun could not hear that silence, but he could feel it. But the boy discovered something. His voice mattered more because it was different. His voice mattered because it was hard-earned. His voice mattered because it was brave. Tears were forming in Minjun's eyes now. He was not just saying lines anymore. He was speaking truth. And in that moment, I knew that I was stronger than I ever believed. He finished and stood there, breathing hard. For a long moment, nothing happened. Minjun wondered if he had failed. Then the audience stood up. All 500 people rose to their feet. Minjun could not hear the applause, but he saw it. Saw the hands coming together again and again. Saw the faces smiling and crying. Saw his mother sobbing with pride. Saw Jiwoo jumping up and down. Saw his father wiping his eyes. The standing ovation seemed to go on forever. Minjun just stood there overwhelmed. People were not just being polite. They meant it. They really meant it. He signed thank you to the audience. Many people signed back or waved or put their hands over their hearts. As Minjun walked off stage, his whole body was shaking. Emma grabbed him in a huge hug. David was crying and laughing at the same time. Other performers crowded around him with hugs and high fives. That was incredible, David said, speaking slowly so Minjun could read his lips. I forgot to breathe watching you, Sarah signed. She had been learning signs from Emma. Robert came over with tears in his eyes. Minjun, that was the most powerful thing I have ever seen on this stage. But Minjun barely heard any of it. His mind was still processing what had just happened. 500 people had listened to him. Really listened. His voice, the one he had been told was not good enough, had reached them. Vin appeared and put both hands on Minjun's shoulders. That was exactly what I knew you could do, exactly. The show continued. A few more performers did their pieces. Each one was good, but the energy had shifted. Something special had happened when Minjun performed, and everyone knew it. Finally, it was time for the finale. All the performers gathered on stage. The lights came up. The audience settled into their seats. Vin walked to center stage. Thank you all for being here tonight. What you have witnessed is real courage. These performers have shared their hearts with you. He gestured to the group. We are going to end with a group piece. Each person will share one line about what they have learned on their journey. Listen not just with your ears, but with your hearts. One by one, performers stepped forward. Emma spoke about learning to be vulnerable. David talked about discovering that different does not mean less. Sarah shared about finding beauty in scars. Then it was Minjun's turn. Vin stood right next to him, close enough that their shoulders touched. A silent promise of support. Minjun spoke his line. I learned that my voice matters even when it sounds different. His voice rang out clear and strong. The audience was silent, taking in every word. Then Vin spoke. And I learned that courage sounds like Minjun. The finale continued with other performers sharing their lines. It built and built, creating a wave of emotion. At the end, all the performers signed together. We are stronger together. The audience erupted in applause. The standing ovation lasted even longer this time. People were crying and cheering. The performers held hands and bowed together. As they walked off stage, Minjun felt something he had never felt before. Peace. Complete peace with who he was. His voice was different. His journey was hard, but he mattered. He really, truly mattered. Tonight, 500 people had heard him, and tomorrow, his voice would reach even further. After the final bow, the performers stayed on stage for a few extra moments, soaking in the applause. Minjun could not hear it, but he felt it. The vibrations traveled through the stage floor and into his body. It was like the whole theater was pulsing with energy. When they finally walked backstage, the chaos was joyful. People were hugging and crying and laughing. The stage manager was running around taking photos. Volunteers brought water bottles and snacks. Everyone was riding the high of a successful show. Robert gathered the performers one more time. That was absolutely incredible. You all were amazing. He had tears running down his face. The charity director just told me we raised over $250,000 tonight. $250,000. Everyone cheered. That was $50,000 more than they had hoped for. Also, Robert continued, the media is here. They want to do some interviews. You do not have to talk to them if you do not want to, but if you are willing, they are very interested in your stories. Minjun felt his stomach flip. Media, interviews. Emma nudged him. You should do it, she signed. I do not know, he signed back. What if they make fun of my voice? Then they are idiots, she signed firmly. But they will not. What you did tonight was special. The world needs to hear about it. A woman with a microphone and a cameraman approached the group. She looked professional in a blue suit with her hair pulled back. She spoke with Robert briefly, then looked around at the performers. Her eyes landed on Minjun. She walked over with a warm smile. Robert came with her to help. Hi, Minjun. My name is Jennifer Park. I am with Channel 7 News. She spoke slowly so he could read her lips. Your performance tonight was incredibly moving. Would you be willing to answer a few questions? Minjun looked at Vin, who was standing nearby. Vin nodded encouragingly. Okay, Minjun said out loud. His voice was rough, but Jennifer did not flinch or look uncomfortable. Wonderful. We can do this right here if that works for you. She gestured to a quiet corner backstage. Minjun nodded. Sujin came over to interpret. The cameraman set up his equipment. Jennifer made sure Minjun could see her face clearly before she started asking questions. Minjun, can you tell me about your performance tonight? What did that monologue mean to you? Minjun spoke, and Sujin signed what the reporter said so he could fully understand. That monologue is my story. I lost my hearing when I was 7. For a long time I thought that meant I lost my voice too. Tonight was about showing that everyone has a voice, no matter how it sounds. That must have taken incredible courage. Were you nervous? Very nervous. At my audition, people laughed at me. They made fun of how I speak. I almost gave up. Jennifer's eyes widened. What made you keep going? Minjun thought about this. My family. They always believed in me. And then Vin showed me that my courage mattered. He helped me see that my voice was important, not despite being different, but because it is different. Speaking of Vin Diesel, he has been very vocal about how you inspired him. How does that feel? Minjun felt his face grow warm. It feels impossible. I never thought someone like him would notice someone like me. But he taught me something important. Real strength is not about being loud or perfect. It is about showing up even when you are scared. Jennifer smiled. What do you hope people take away from your performance tonight? I hope other people who feel different know they matter. I hope parents of deaf children or children with any disability see that their kids can do anything. I hope people learn to listen with more than just their ears. The interview continued for a few more minutes. Jennifer asked thoughtful questions and really listened to his answers. When they finished, she shook his hand. Thank you, Minjun. This is going to be a beautiful story. I think a lot of people are going to be moved by what you shared tonight. As Jennifer moved on to interview other performers, more media people approached. A reporter from the local newspaper, someone from a disability advocacy website, even a podcaster who focused on inspiring stories. Minjun answered their questions as best he could. Each time he felt a little more confident. His voice was still the same rough, unclear voice it had always been. But now he understood something. The imperfection was not the problem. The imperfection was part of the message. After the interviews, Minjun found his family. His mother grabbed him in a crushing hug. She was crying so hard she could barely sign. I am so proud she managed to sign. So proud. His father hugged him next. Sung-ho was not a man who cried often, but his eyes were wet. My son, he signed simply. Ji-woo jumped on him and nearly knocked him over. You were amazing. Everyone was crying. I took so many videos. You are going to be famous. I do not want to be famous, Minjun signed with a laugh. Too bad, she signed back. You already are, look. She showed him her phone. Someone had already posted a video of his performance online. It had been shared hundreds of times in just the last hour. The comments were full of supportive messages. This made me cry so hard. What courage! I am sharing this with my deaf daughter. She needs to see this. This is what real strength looks like. I work with special needs kids. This is going to inspire so many people. Minjun stared at the phone in shock. People were watching him. People cared. A man in a nice suit approached them. He introduced himself as Marcus Johnson, a talent agent. He handed Minjun his business card. I work with people who want to share their stories through media, Marcus explained. Robert stood with them to help communicate. Documentary producers, book publishers, speaking events. What you did tonight was powerful. I think there are a lot of opportunities if you are interested. Minjun looked at his parents, overwhelmed. Was this really happening? You do not have to decide anything now, Marcus said kindly. Just think about it. The world needs to hear your message, but only if you want to share it. More people approached. 3 different theater companies offered him roles in inclusive productions. A university asked if he would speak to their education students. A disability advocacy organization wanted him on their board. Through it all, Vin watched from a distance, smiling. He had known this would happen. He had seen the spark in Minjun from the very beginning. Finally, when things calmed down a bit, Vin walked over. Soo-jin came too, ready to interpret. Can we talk privately for a minute? Vin asked. Minjun nodded. They walked to a quiet hallway away from the crowd. Vin sat on a storage crate and gestured for Minjun to sit too. I want to tell you something important, Vin said. Soo-jin signed everything. After tonight, a lot of people are going to want things from you. Interviews, appearances, opportunities. Some will be good. Some will not. Minjun listened carefully. I want you to remember something, Vin continued. I did not give you this opportunity. You earned it at that audition. When you performed even though people were laughing. When you finished even though you were crying. That is when you earned it. Vin leaned forward. Those people who laughed? They saw someone different and decided that meant less. But I saw someone determined. I saw someone brave. I saw someone who refused to be silent. He pulled out a card from his wallet and handed it to Minjun. It had his personal phone number and email. This is my real contact information. Not my agent, not my assistant, me. If you ever need advice or help or just someone to talk to, you call me. Okay? Minjun's hands were shaking as he took the card. He signed, thank you, for everything. Vin signed back slowly but clearly. No, thank you. You reminded me why this work matters. You reminded me what courage really looks like. They sat there for a moment in comfortable silence. Then Vin stood up. Keep performing, he said. Keep using your voice. The world needs to hear it. Not because I say so, but because it is true. They walked back to the main backstage area together. The energy was still high, but people were starting to pack up and head home. Emma found Minjun and gave him one more hug. Stay in touch, okay? You are stuck with me now as a friend. I would like that, Minjun signed. David came over and showed Minjun his phone. Dude, your performance is going viral. Like really viral. It has been shared thousands of times already. Minjun looked at the numbers climbing on the screen. Thousands of views. Hundreds of comments. Shares spreading across the internet. People need this, David said. People need to see that courage comes in all forms. That voice comes in all sounds. You gave them that tonight. One by one, the performers said their goodbyes. They had come together as strangers. Now they were bound by this shared experience. This night when they had all been brave together. Finally, it was time to leave. Minjun walked out of the theater with his family. The night air was cool and refreshing after the hot stage lights. In the parking lot, his father put his arm around Minjun's shoulders. It was a rare gesture of affection. Sung-ho was not a demonstrative man, but tonight called for it. You changed the world a little bit tonight, Sung-ho signed. Maybe that sounds big, but it is true. Every person who saw you, who heard you, they are different now. They think differently about deaf people, about different voices, about courage. Minjun had not thought about it that way. He had been so focused on his own fear, his own performance. He had not considered the ripple effect. When they got home, Minjun was exhausted but could not sleep. He sat in his room and looked at his phone. The video of his performance kept being shared. The comments kept coming. I am a speech therapist. I am showing this to all my students. My son is deaf. He has been so discouraged. This gave him hope. I cried watching this. Thank you for showing what real courage is. This changed how I think about disability. Thank you. Message after message, story after story, people sharing how his performance had touched them. A month later, Minjun stood backstage at a different theater. This was his first paid theater role. A small part in an inclusive production, but a real part. A part he had auditioned for and earned. He was nervous, but it was good nervous now. The kind of nervous that came from excitement, not fear. He peeked out from behind the curtain to look at the audience. In the third row, he saw his family. Haiwan, Sungho, and Jiwoo. They waved when they saw him looking, but there was someone else with them. Wearing the same baseball cap from that first day at the audition, Vin Diesel had come to watch. Minjun felt tears form in his eyes. Vin had not told him he was coming. He just showed up. Because that was the kind of person he was. The stage manager signaled that it was almost time. Minjun took his position. He thought about the journey that had brought him here. The 7-year-old boy in the hospital, the years of therapy, the audition where people laughed, the showcase that changed everything. He thought about Vin's words. Your voice matters not because famous people say so, but because it is yours. It was true. His voice was his own. Rough and unclear and imperfect, but his. And it mattered. The curtain rose. The lights came up. Minjun stepped onto the stage and began to speak. His voice was still different. It would always be different. But different was not less. Different was just different. And sometimes different was exactly what the world needed to hear. In the audience, Vin Diesel watched and smiled. He had known from the very first audition that this young man was special, that his courage would inspire others, that his voice would matter. And now, watching Minjun perform with confidence and joy, Vin knew he had been right. The world had heard Minjun's voice. And the world was better for it. Minjun continued his performance, no longer afraid. He had found his voice not by changing it, but by embracing it. Not by making it sound like everyone else, but by making peace with its uniqueness. Because that is what real courage sounds like. Not perfect, not polished, but honest and brave and true. That is what Minjun Park taught the world. That is what 500 people learned at a charity showcase. That is what thousands of people discovered through a viral video. Your voice matters. However it sounds, however different it may be. Your voice matters. And when you use it bravely, you change the world.